I'm David Orr, and I'm the learning support teacher in the Learning Commons. So we have two different learning support teachers, and I work here, which up till last year was our library, but with Alberta Education's initiative to create Learning Commons, our library is now known as the Learning Commons. And with that philosophy comes the idea that a range of students can come into this space and access learning in many ways. So what we're doing here is we've really moved learning support out of an office or classroom and put it into a very visible and public place in the building. And the idea behind that has been to really help remove the stigma that's attached with needing learning support, which is really funny. I've often thought about, well, who needs help learning? Well, isn't that everybody? Isn't that what a school is for? Is a place to teach how to learn.
Do you understand this?
At Chinook, we want students to be in charge of their learning and to know how to access different types of supports if they need it. And so we really encourage students to identify what their strengths are and where they need some support. And so students have the ability to ask to use the Learning Commons. If they're in a math class, they might say, I might need a little bit of clarification on this piece, and I have a spare at this time. I think I'm going to go and get some support from David or Heather in the Learning Commons. So students can choose to go down at any time during the day. We also have meetings with parents and teachers, and they're called learning team meetings. And so we might suggest to a student that, hey, did you know that there was a space in our building that you could access supports if you wanted? And then typically they're very open to it because they're like, that would be awesome. I'd love to access supports.
Hi, Heather. I'm writing an exam for Jacqueline Dudas. I use the Learning Commons and the instructional support primarily for getting a little bit of extra clarification on assignments, as well as primarily during exams. I use it for, I find the classroom setting very intimidating per se, so I like to come down here. I struggle with anxiety, so it helps me a lot here to kind of be calmed down and have a quiet space to work. Additionally, I also utilize the reader, which is a teacher has pre-recorded the test on MP3 player. So I listen to that and follow along through the questions just in case I've missed any little wording or details that could potentially give the question a different meaning. And then I also get double time down here. So instead of having to write it in the classroom and then have everyone standing up and leaving and me sitting there, slowly getting more and more anxious because I'm not done, I can come back here during flex time, lunchtime, or during spare class and finish exams.
Students who have been identified by Alberta Education Learning Codes, learning disability, in fact, is the official title. Those students are accessing supports here. But we also have students accessing supports for things like anxiety. A teacher in a classroom with 35 kids really doesn't have a lot of time and ability to go and help manage anxiety. And so, we're able to offer that here as well. In addition to that, though, we have a large number of kids with no identified learning code or learning disability or anything. They just want some support. They come for study skills sessions, time management. I mean, just yesterday we helped a student look at all that she had to do and write it down. And it's been fun listening to her teach other students that, that, hey, if you're overwhelmed right now, let's make a list of what you got to do, and now let's put that list into a calendar and come up with a plan. And there's students who I think really just come to the space because they like the environment, right? They like the physical setup in here, the light that comes in. There's lots of reasons that kids use this space.
I recently just moved to this school, so this year due to the BC school strike, and they never had this facility at my old school. And so I took a spare, and I use my spare time, my spare class, to do an aviation course, so like a college or university course. So I do that on my spare time, and then I come in here during my core classes to get extra help with my assignments and whatnot.
In like a regular classroom, it's either really noisy or just dead silent. And I find that to be sort of like tense sometimes. So when I come down here, it's sort of calm, but you can still talk, which I find is more relaxing.
As we all know, the old model of exclusion was to take the kids out of the room, instruct them separately, and hope that they somehow catch up. We feel like we've flipped that totally opposite and said, no, all kids need to catch up because all kids are learning. So let's make a space available to all kids. Let's have students who maybe have felt dumb, who maybe have been called dumb. Let's have them actually sit at the same table with kids who, no, they're just here because they're trying to turn their 90 into a 95. And you know, they sit at the same table, and often that's where the magic happens. It's not me, it's those connections that those kids are making with each other. You know, picking up strategies from each other, tutoring each other. I mean, I had a grade 10 girl who doesn't like math, teaching grade 9s how to do their math the other day, just because they were there and she would rather do that than you know, whatever else she was supposed to be doing.
I think the philosophy is that all students learn differently and we need to support all of those different needs. High school redesign is about flexibility and kids understanding where they're at in the process of learning and how do they move forward, how do they grow as individuals and as students and as learners. And so the Learning Commons is an attempt to support all of that, which is really what schools are about, supporting all types of needs.
To me, the whole idea of it captures what I believe education is, that students always can learn, right? That learning isn't just about getting the assignments and handing them back and getting them marked, but that learning is this evolving thing. Learning is messy, learning is flexible, and really on a daily basis the question needs to be asked, what needs to happen today for you to move forward? And that's the essence of the space.